Good. So, good morning. Great. So I've been thinking one of the things that is interesting about yoga is that the process of yoga is like super frustrating, and then also really always infinitely interesting because we never get to like arrive at having reached a sort of end point. There's always something new to discover. And I was thinking about this because I'm doing a lot of weeding in my garden, and the gardening and the yoga practice are very parallel experiences. And so when I'm doing the weeding and the gardening, you know, we start with something like the pea patch, which is totally overgrown, and it takes a couple days to get out all the things that don't belong in there. And at the end, you're like, yes, it's perfect, it's beautiful, looks exactly the way it should. And then you realize the carrots are totally overgrown, and so you go over to the carrot patch and you get the carrots perfectly set up the way they're supposed to be, and then you go over to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and eventually you get back to the peas and they're full of weeds again. And so the yoga experience, I think, is the same, that we start and there's like all this stuff that's so overwhelming, like so much stuff to learn, and so many things about our bodies that we didn't know, and we can explore that for a while, and maybe we get to a point where we kind of feel like, okay, I got something figured out. And then we realize like there's so much more about our bodies, or there's this whole philosophy side of yoga, or a spiritual aspect that we could explore that's like a whole other garden that we hadn't even noticed before. And we might go through several different spaces and feel each time like we've arrived at a point where we've really learned something and discovered something important and kind of evolved in a way. And then we get back to that first asana that we started on, realize like there's a whole other layer of things here that I didn't even see the first time around, and another weeding experience or experience of cultivating that I have to do all over again. So at the beginning, maybe we kind of get annoyed by this, but for me now, I think like having done yoga for years and years, it makes me realize that there's always something to be excited about. So that's actually really great. So I hope that you feel excited too. We're going to start lying on the back, and you can just find a comfortable way to lie down. You might start with your legs straight, or maybe the knees bent, soles of the feet to the floor, whatever you like best. And just letting your body be really heavy for a moment. You can start to settle the weight of the hips and the shoulders and the head. So first, getting to know this landscape of your physical body, noticing any sensations that immediately arise, sort of the most obvious layer. Maybe we feel right away that there's some tensions that we can start to soften around. And then we begin to get connected with the breath. You notice how the breath moves in that physical landscape. Now the breath allows us to start to find more room in the body, and also more release, more softness in the body. And then we can notice busyness in the mind, how the breath might also allow us to find more space, more ease in our mental landscape. Notice how the mental landscape and the physical landscape are intertwined. That if we're holding on to something in our minds, that might have an effect in how we feel in our bodies. And so by softening through the mental space, we can also find more ease in our physical space. We just get heavier, more relaxed as we settle here, as we breathe here. Maybe we can even think of the breath as the connection between your physical and your mental spaces. And then even with just this few moments of looking more clearly, you can start to see a little bit better what's there in the body, what we're bringing to our mats today. Good. And then you can slowly draw your knees into your chest and wrap your hands or your arms around your shins and rock a little bit side to side just to massage the back against the floor. And then we'll release the left foot down to the floor. You can cross your right ankle just above your left knee. So we're finding this kind of pigeon stretch. If you feel really tense around the area of the hip, you might decide that you just want to stay here for a moment and kind of let that right knee settle away from you. If we're exploring a little bit more deeply, we could bring the left thigh closer in, reaching the right arm between your legs, left hand to the outside, either looping your hands around the back of your thigh or maybe even over your left shin. Keeping the shoulders nice and soft, the head heavy, so there's no effort in the upper body. Seeing if you can find more of a sense of making space in the low body, breathing into your low body. Notice as you inhale that you might direct breath into the area of the hip where you feel the strongest tug of this stretch. And then as you exhale, you can feel how the low belly draws in, which allows us to kind of fold the left thigh closer in towards the body and maybe explore a little bit more of the stretch even. Just taking a few slow, steady breaths here. Good, and then we'll slowly release left foot to the floor, right foot to the floor, changing sides and cross your left ankle just above your right knee, and gathering the right thigh in towards you, left arm reaching through, holding around the back of your right thigh or over your right shin. Again, if you're really noticing that you have to struggle with the upper body to get the legs close in enough to hold, then maybe consider just keeping your right foot to the floor and letting that left knee ease away from you so that there's a more useful experience in relaxing through the lower body, not getting caught up in effort in the upper body. And paying attention to your breath and how your breath might help you to discover space in your hip. Maybe that drawing in of the low belly as you exhale to fold more at the right hip crease in order to increase the stretch at your left hip. And you're still allowing the shoulders to be relaxed, so the effort is from the breath and the core rather than from your arms. And then we'll release the right foot back to the floor, release the left foot to the floor, bringing your arms by your sides, and rooting the feet about hip width apart, heels relatively close into your sits bones. And move through a few rounds of a sort of sweeping bridge, so we're pressing down into the feet, lifting the hips, reaching your arms up alongside your ears, take a nice full stretch back through your fingertips. And then as you exhale, you can slowly settle your hips back towards the floor, let your arms sink back by your side. So we'll just go through that a few times, your own easeful rhythm of breathing as you're inhaling or lifting, stretching out long through your belly, tailbone lengthening towards your knees, the chest towards the chin. And then as you reach the bottom of your exhale, feeling that full settled quality, the hips nice and heavy, a little bit of hug in the belly to connect to your core strength. And your own easeful movement again, just a few more rounds. And really seeing if you can follow the longest possible rhythm in your breathing so there's no rushing through these movements. Each one takes the full length of either an inhale or an exhale. Next time that you let your hips settle down to the earth, you can just let them be really nice and heavy. And then we'll bring the arms out about shoulder height. You can take your hips a little bit over to the right, and we'll start to sink the knees to the left, so moving into a gentle twist here. And you can decide how intense you want to make the twist in the spine by how you set up your knees. So you might really stack your right thigh over your left, your right knee over your left, or you could just let the legs be a little bit more staggered. A few steady breaths, breathing into the length of your right side. As you're exhaling, seeing if you can feel again that hug in the low belly, which allows you to turn your ribs away from your hips, so the right shoulder settling more heavily towards the floor. Again, and then we'll inhale to bring the knees back towards center, shifting your hips over to the left, and then settling the knees down to the right. And again, just choosing the amount of stacking that's good for you. So the more you bring that left knee exactly over the right, the more we'll be turning the hips away from the floor and moving into a deeper spinal twist. And breathing now along the left side of your body, feeling as you exhale that drawing in of the low belly. As we activate the core, we can find more of a turning through the upper body. The left shoulder settles more heavily towards the floor. Good, and then from here we'll just bring the left arm all the way over to the right so that you can roll completely onto your right side. And then pressing yourself slowly up to a seat. You can find your way to all fours. Oh, my screen is gone again. Okay, I don't know what I look like, but I'm assuming that you're all still there and you can all still see me. It's better this way. I won't have to worry about how my hair looks. Good, so now we're setting the knees up under the hips, the wrists under the shoulders, and then moving through a few rounds of cat and cow. We're inhaling to lengthen the belly, lift the sits bones, lift the chest. Exhaling to round the back, pressing the mat away from you, hugging the belly in. And then just moving with your own smooth breath. Long space in the torso as you draw breath in, so you can really reach your ribs forward of your hips. And then a good sense of like really curling into your center as you're exhaling, so the whole back body puffs up, head heavy, back of the neck long. And again, just a few more times, your own breath. And we'll inhale to come back to a neutral spine, keeping your hips aligned over your knees. You can now walk your hands forward, resting your forehead down to the floor, keeping your hips still up nice and high, breathing up into the length of your spine, into the wide base of your pelvis. As you exhale, letting your shoulders settle, your rib cage sinks down. If you're quite mobile in your upper back and the back of your neck, you might find that you like to set your chin to the floor so that the chest can drop down a little bit deeper. And just finding the edge that's right for you here. Nice long space in your belly. And again, really seeing if you can relax through the upper back. And then we'll slowly come back up to all fours, so walking your hands back in towards you. And now taking your hips up and back, moving into downward dog. You'll take a moment here to find just a comfy experience of downward dog. You can alternately bend your knees, rock your hips, whatever feels right for you to settle into this shape. And then with your next inhaling, ripple forward into a plank, bringing your shoulders over your wrists. Then exhaling to lower slowly down, maybe coming all the way down, maybe just to chaturanga. Inhaling to cobra or an upward dog. And then exhaling to pick your hips up and back, moving into downward dog. And a few steady breaths here. Looking for length in your low back, seeing if you can really send your hips up high into space. And then as you're reaching up and back through your hips, finding length down through your heels, the backs of the legs get longer. Good. And then we'll slowly walk the feet forward to the hands, arriving at a comfortable forward fold. Enough bend in the knees for yourself. And inhaling to come halfway up, reaching your ribs forward. Exhaling to settle back down, nice and heavy into your fold. Inhale again, halfway up, reaching forward through your ribs. And exhaling to soften back down. One more time, inhaling halfway up, lengthening out through the torso. So see if you can even stretch your belly kind of long here. And then as you exhale, scoop in through that low part of your belly to fold back over your legs. And we'll bring the hands around the back of the head, interlacing your fingers so that your palms just kind of cup around the back of your skull. And dangle here for a moment. Let the weight of your hands be a reminder to let go of effort in the neck and the face. We can keep the elbows kind of wrapped in so there's space in the upper back, room for your breath between your shoulder blades.
And then keeping the head really nice and heavy and the elbows wrapped in, find at least some bend in your knees. We're going to start to roll up to standing. So you're pressing down through the feet. As you're coming up, the legs can begin to straighten. Reach the tailbone down towards the floor. Hug in through the belly. Lift the ribs. Lift the heart. Point your elbows right up towards the sky. And start to lean your head back into your hands, or just gently tipping the ribs back into a little bit of a back bend. And then we'll bring the head back to center so that it's just right at the top of your spine. Let your arms settle by your sides. And inhaling to reach your arms up nice and tall. Exhaling to fold forward, bringing your hands towards the floor. Inhaling halfway up, reaching the ribs forward. Exhale, softening down. We'll step the right foot back, bring the right knee down towards the mat, and then inhaling to come up into a low lunge. I'm just taking a few steady breaths here. So you can pad under your right knee if you feel that you need it. See if you can draw your right knee and your left foot towards each other. So we start to find the hug through the inner lines of the legs, and then the same hug in through the center of the core so that we can lift up through the ribs, even as we're letting the hips sink down. So your belly is drawing away from your left thigh, really feeling that space of the right hip crease. So use a little bit of effort in the center body in order to help us get more into the stretch of the right hip crease. And then we'll exhale to bring the hands back down to the floor. Straighten your right leg. Press the mat away from you. Stepping back to plank. Moving with your own breath. Again, just finding your own path to downward dog. And make it as simple or as complex as you like. And then we'll inhale to reach the right leg up and back. And exhale to draw your right knee in towards the center of your chest, the shoulders over your wrists. Inhale to reach up and back. Exhale the knee to the upper right arm, the shoulders forward over the wrists. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale the knee to the upper left arm, the shoulders forward over the wrist. Keep your thigh hugging up towards you. And inhaling to reach up and back. Exhale, knee into the chest, and carefully stepping your right foot forward towards your hands. We'll set the left knee down to the mat, again padding if you like it, and then slowly coming up into your low lunge here. And we'll just take a few breaths in this shape, really letting the hips settle, but then starting to build up that hug towards your center line from the feet, through the inner thighs, through the deeper core, so that you can lift your belly away from your right thigh and grow up tall through your ribs, even as the hips keep sinking, really finding that space again in the left hip crease. So by adding a little bit of effort, we get more into the stretch in the front of the left hip. And then exhaling to bring the hands back down to the floor, we'll step the left foot forward to meet the right. Inhaling halfway up. Exhaling to sink back down, pressing into the feet, nice long spine. Inhale, coming all the way up, arms reaching tall. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. And then inhale to sweep your arms up, stretching for the ceiling. Exhaling to fold forward, hands come towards the floor. Inhale, halfway up, ribs forward. Exhaling to soften, stepping your left foot back. And we'll keep the left leg straight, inhaling to come up to a high lunge here. Nice tall reach up through the fingers, letting the shoulders sink, letting the hips settle, drawing your belly away from your right thigh so that we again get into that space of the left hip crease. And now we're going to bring the hands behind the head, interlace the fingers, wrap your elbows in. You can start to bend your left knee, sink it really nice and low, like maybe as close towards the floor as you can without touching the floor. Squeeze between the feet, the inner thighs, hug in through the belly, so really strong through your low body. Start to lift up through the ribs. Keep the elbows narrow, and then reach your elbows up towards the ceiling so you can start to tip your rib cage back. So lots of effort in your deeper core here, and the low body and the legs to hold steadiness, to hold space in your low back, so that you're able to comfortably tip the ribs back without any strain in the low spine. So really lifting up through the heart, through all of that power in your low body. Maybe you can tip back a little bit deeper. And then we'll pull back to center, hands coming down towards the floor, stepping carefully back to plank, moving again with your own breathing, your path to downward dog. And then we'll inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale, knee into the center of the chest, and you can feel free to come really far forward with your shoulders. I'm not going to do that, but Please do as much as you can. Inhale, reaching your left leg up and back. Exhale, knee into the upper left arm, like maybe right even up into your armpit if you're able. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper right arm, and again, see if you can lift the thigh towards you so that we're not dropping the hips. Inhale to reach up and back. Exhale, knee into the center of the chest, stepping your left foot forward towards your hands. Inhaling up to your high lunge. And then settling through the hips, finding that space in your right hip crease, so really drawing the belly away from the left thigh. And then again, the hands behind the head, interlacing the fingers, wrap your elbows in, sinking your right knee nice and low as you're able. Squeezing the feet towards each other, hugging in through the belly, lifting the heart. Keep the elbows narrow, so upper back is wide, points of your elbows right up towards the ceiling or the sky. And then keep tipping back with support for your low spine. So really feel like all of that hugging in the low body is helping you to lift your ribs right up out of your hips. As you tip back, the low spine does get a little bit of compression, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable or painful because the core is working to hold space. Maybe you can tip back even just a little bit deeper. And then we'll pull back to center, bringing the hands towards the floor, stepping your right foot forward to meet the left. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, sinking down. Pressing into the feet, inhaling to come all the way up, tall stretch. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. Now we'll bend the knees, sit the hips low. Inhale to reach your arms up alongside your ears. Exhaling to fold forward, taking your hands towards the floor. Inhaling halfway up, the ribs reaching forward. Exhale, softening, planting your hands, and step your feet or hop your feet back, and coming again through your own flow to downward dog. And I think I've reached my maximum full vinyasas for today. So if you want to know what a prenatal vinyasa looks like, have a free look here. Or if you have issues in your shoulders or your wrists that don't let you do chaturanga or lowering down very easily, then feel free to follow my lead on this one too. And eventually we'll meet in downward dog. And then we're inhaling to reach the right leg up and back. And exhale the knee into the center of the chest. Inhaling up and back. Exhale the knee to the upper right arm. Again, the shoulders as far forward as you're able. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper left arm, squeezing the thigh up towards you. Now we're going to take the right leg over to the left, rooting the outer edge of the foot. Drop the inner edge of your left foot to the floor. As you inhale, you can come up into a side plank variation, left arm reaching for the sky. Keep your hips up nice and high by really pressing down through that right hand. And then we'll take the left arm alongside the left ear, stretch out through your left side body. And then exhaling the left hand back to the floor, pulling the right knee in towards the chest, and then stepping your right foot forward towards your hands. Bringing your left foot flat to the floor. Inhale to come up, warrior one. And then exhaling to settle into warrior two. Arms out, shoulder height. And shoulders soft, sitting the hips low. Inhale here to reverse warrior. Right side body long. Keep your right arm reaching alongside your right ear. And now slowly straightening out your right leg. See if you can stretch back a little bit more deeply into this reverse shape. And then hugging in through the core so we support the spine as we come across. Reaching your right arm as far forward as you're able. Hinging at the right hip. We'll exhale to take the right arm down, left arm up for a triangle pose. A few steady breaths here. Sending your hips back, reaching your ribs forward, rolling the left side ribs open. Maybe a little bit of a feeling of a twist around the center body to turn your heart upwards. And then pressing into the feet, inhaling to come back up to a standing place. Exhale to bend your right knee, warrior two. Inhale, reverse warrior. Again, find that long stretch through your right side. Exhaling to windmill the hands down to the floor. Stepping back to plank. And again, your own path to downward dog. So you can be as creative as you like with this. Really find something that works for you. And it doesn't have to be impossible, but it can be if that's what works for you. And then we'll inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale, knee into the chest, shoulders as far forward as you're able. Inhaling to reach up and back. Exhale, knee to your upper left arm, shoulders coming forward. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper right arm. Again, so you can really lift the thigh towards you. And then taking that left leg over to the right. So rooting the outer edge of the left foot, settling the inner edge of your right foot, reaching your right arm up to the ceiling. Press down through your left hand to take the hips up high. Roll your heart open. And then reach your right arm alongside your right ear, getting the full stretch through your right side body. And then we'll exhale the left hand back to the floor, stepping your left foot forward to meet your hands. And then placing the right foot flat to the mat, inhaling to bring your arms up alongside your ears. Exhaling into warrior two, adjusting the feet as you need to. Sitting low through the hips, again soft through your shoulders. We'll inhale here to reverse warrior, the left side body long. And then keep reaching back through those left fingers. Slowly start to straighten out your left leg. Maybe you can reach back a little bit more into the side bend shape. Good. A little bit of hug in the deeper core to hold center as you come back through your midpoint. Reach your left arm as far forward as you're able. Exhaling the left arm down, right arm up for triangle pose. And taking a few steady breaths here. And the hips reaching back, the heart stretching forward. Try and get some length in your belly. Really noticing if you're curling into this shape. Think more about reaching almost into the feeling of like a back bend. If you feel like your spine is round. So the front ribs, the pubic bone reaching away from each other. And then pressing down into the feet, inhale to come back up. Exhale, bending your left knee, warrior two. Inhale, reverse the left side body long. Exhale, windmilling the hands down to the mat. Stepping back to plank and finding, again, your own path to downward dog. Just taking again a few steady breaths here, breathing up the length of the spine into the wide base of your pelvis, keeping that lift in your hips as you stretch down the backs of the legs. Noticing whatever other little areas of weeding you might do within this shape. So once we start to get a feel for being comfortable here, we can still go looking for all of the fine-tuning. Maybe you find some activity in the inner lines of the legs, sense of gently rolling your thigh bones inwards to spread your sits bones wider apart. You can pay more attention to how you root the hands, how you get maximum stability in the shoulders, so you can really send the hips up high. End of your next exhaling, bend your knees, look forward, stepping your feet or hopping your feet up towards your hands. Inhaling to come halfway up. Exhaling to sink back down. Bending the knees, sit the hips low. Inhale, arms reach up alongside the ears, coming back into Utkatasana. And then shifting your weight into your right foot. Pick up the left thigh, crossing your left ankle just above your right knee. Sitting the hips nice and low, so we're coming in into sort of pigeon stretch. Bring the hands to the center of the heart. You might use your thumbs here to kind of lift the chest away from the hips. And then as you start to sit your hips down lower, see if you can also take your hips back and reach your heart forward so that we're folding more at the hip creases. Maybe eventually we'll bring the forearms down onto the left calf. And really reaching back through your hips, forward through the heart. You might even find here that you're comfortable reaching your hands towards the floor. Just getting to your edge where you can really feel that outer left hip getting a nice stretch. And then we'll come step by step back up. Eventually hands to the center of the chest, and then reaching your arms up alongside your ears. Pick up your left thigh, taking a big step back, landing in warrior two, arms out, shoulder height, sitting the hips low. And we can straighten the right leg here. This time we'll turn the right toes towards the left and angle the toes inwards. Bring your hands to your hips, inhaling to lift the center of the chest, exhaling to fold, taking your hands towards the floor. And place your right hand under your face, bring your left hand to your low back, and just feel that the hips are truly square. We'll start to roll the left shoulder open so that we can find a twisting shape, still lifting your right hip so the hips stay square as you turn your ribs. If it feels available, you could reach your left arm up towards the ceiling here. So we're spreading the arms out nice and wide, and then reaching back through your hips, forward through your heart to lengthen out the torso as you inhale, and then finding more of that turning as you're exhaling. And then we'll exhale to bring the left hand back down to the floor. Hands coming back to your hips. Pressing into the feet, inhale to stand back up tall. Turning your right toes forward, bending your right knee, bringing your arms out shoulder height. Inhale to reverse warrior, the right arm sweeping back. Exhaling to windmill your hands down to the floor, stepping back to plank. Again, moving with your own breath, your path to downward dog. Again. And we'll inhale to reach the right leg up and back. Exhale, again, knee into the chest, shoulders over the wrists. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper right arm, shoulders forward. Really feel that outer right hip working to lift the leg. Inhaling up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper left arm. And then taking your right leg out to the left, root the inner edge of your left foot. Left arm reaching up, coming into this side plank variation. Hips nice and high. Left arm alongside your left ear, really breathing into the space of your left side body. And then exhaling, left hand down to the floor. Tuck your left toes under. Squeeze that right knee back in towards you. Stepping your right foot towards your hands. Left foot flat to the mat. Inhaling up to warrior one. And then exhaling to move into warrior three. So tipping your weight into your right foot. Floating the left leg up as high as you're able, maybe parallel to the floor. Really lifting through the inner line of the leg. Nice long stretch out here through center. Good, and then we'll slowly find some bend in the right knee, coming up towards standing, pulling your left heel towards your left hip. Reach back with your left hand to find the top of that left foot. We'll reach the right arm up alongside the right ear, and then just tilting your chest a little bit forward, you can start to come into a dancer's pose. So right arm reaching up, pushing your left foot up and back into your left hand. Seeing if we can stretch out the front of the left thigh, the length of the belly. A few steady breaths here. Eyes fixed to an unmoving point on the floor or a wall in front of you. And then we'll come back towards the center point, knees parallel, stepping your left foot down beside your right. And then again, bending your knees, sit your hips low, and bring your arms up alongside your ears. Shift your weight now into your left foot, picking up your right thigh, cross your right ankle above your left knee. Again, we'll let the hips drop. And then bringing your hands to the center of the heart and draw your heart away from your hips, really getting long in your low spine. As you're letting the hips sink low, take your hips back and your heart forward so that we're folding with a long spine, maybe forearms to your right calf, or maybe even hands towards the floor. So just choosing whatever your edge is. Again, seeing if we can keep steadiness by really choosing to fix the gaze exactly to an unmoving point on the floor or a wall in front of you. And then go digging for that good stretch in your outer right hip. Good. Finding your way step by step back up, bringing the torso upright, hands to your heart, arms alongside the ears, picking up your right thigh, taking a big step back. We'll land again in warrior two, arms out, shoulder height, sitting the hips nice and low. And then straightening your left leg, turning your left toes in towards the right, angle the toes slightly inwards, hands to your hips. Inhale to lift the heart, exhale to fold, hands towards the floor. This time bringing your left hand under your face, right hand to your low back, keeping that left hip lifted as you roll your right shoulder open, maybe reaching your right arm up towards the ceiling, so finding a wide stretch out through both arms. If it doesn't work for your shoulder, you can just keep your right hand to your back. What we really want to feel is the ribs turning more than the arms turning. So the hips stay level. We stretch out the center body as we inhale, and then we see if we can find that sense of rolling the ribs away from the hips while keeping that left hip lifted level with the right on your exhale. Good, and then exhaling to bring that right hand back down. Then we'll take the hands to the hips, pressing into the feet. Inhale to come back up. Exhaling to turn your left toes forward, arms out, warrior two. Inhale, reverse, the left arm sweeping back. Exhaling to windmill your hands down to the floor. Good, stepping back to plank. Again, finding your own path to downward dog, following your own smooth rhythm of breathing. And then here we'll take the left leg up and back. Exhale the knee into the chest, bringing your shoulders forward. Inhaling to reach up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper left arm. Again, we might feel that outer left hip turn on as we lean forward. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper right arm, taking your left leg out to the right. Root the inner edge of your right foot, right arm up to the ceiling, pressing down through the left hand. Get your hips up nice and high, and then taking your right arm alongside your right ear. Big stretch into your right side body. And then we'll exhale to bring the right hand back down to the floor. Tuck the right toes under, left knee into the chest. Stepping your left foot towards your hands, right foot flat to the floor. Inhale, warrior one, arms up alongside your ears. Exhaling to lean into your left foot, warrior three, right leg floating up parallel to the floor if you're able. Nice long stretch out here. And then we'll slowly come up with the torso, bending the right knee up so that the right foot comes up behind you. Reach back with your right hand to find your right foot. Left arm up alongside your left ear. Maybe maintaining still a little bit of softness in that left knee so that we don't lock the knee. Heart leaning forward as you kick your right foot up and back into your right hand for dancer's pose. Stretching out long through the right thigh, the front of the right hip, the length of the belly. Good. And then we'll slowly release. Knees parallel, stepping the feet side by side, arms down by your sides. Good, again, bending your knees, sitting your hips low, arms reaching up alongside your ears. Good, exhaling to lean your weight into your right foot. We'll pick up the left thigh, cross the left ankle just above your right knee. Again, sitting your hips lower, hands to the center of the chest. Good, from here, we'll see if we can start to twist to bring the left elbow towards the inside of your left foot. You might even be able to really park the left elbow into the inside of the foot. You might even find if you get the elbow sort of parked into the foot that you can reach your left arm down and your right arm up. I'm not going to do all of that, but it's an option. Otherwise, just seeing if you can find as much twist as you're able while still looking for that stretch through the outer left hip. Good. You can fold your hands back together. If you've spread them apart, we'll slowly come back up towards the midline, picking up your left thigh, big step back into warrior two, arms out, shoulder height. And inhaling here to reverse warrior, stretch your right side body long, and then we'll exhale to bring the right hand down to the inside of the right foot, or maybe just your right forearm to your right thigh, left arm reaching alongside your left ear. Finding a nice long side stretch here. Right hip hugging in towards your midline, the left side body rolling open, rooting down through the outer edge of your left foot, stretching forward through your left fingers, really breathing into that space. Again, if you feel like you're curling in, try and find more length in the belly, really a sense of reaching the ribs away from your pubic bone so that the front body is long, space for your breath in your belly. And then we'll exhale here to bring both hands down to the floor, framing your right foot, stepping back to plank. And again, your path to downward dog. And inhaling here to reach the right leg up and back. Exhale, hugging the knee into the center of the chest. Inhale, up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper right arm, the shoulders coming forward. Inhaling, up and back. And exhale, knee to the upper left arm, reaching that right leg over to the left. This time we're going to settle the hips down. So we're letting the inner edge of the left foot drop and then bringing the right hip to the mat so that your right leg is kind of out parallel to the short edge of your mat. And then from here, we're turning the heart back towards the top edge of the mat. So it's a little bit of a pigeon stretch, but also a bit of a twist. You can slowly come down, maybe onto your forearms. Maybe you have room even to sink down deeper. You could come right down onto your forehead. And we'll just take a few steady breaths here. And feeling the hips turn away from the floor as your chest turns back in the direction of the floor. And let's see if you can breathe length into your torso. So look again for that kind of fine tuning once you've sort of figured out how the shape is supposed to be, how to organize your body in the general direction of the shape. Then how do we look for those deeper layers of understanding. How do we root out the smaller weeds? Or how do we know the difference between what's a tiny little weed and what's a tiny little sprout from a plant that we actually want to cultivate? Good, and then we'll come back up onto the hands. You can start to tuck your left toes under as you pick up your hips. Pull that right knee back into the chest. Step your right foot forward towards your hands. Left foot flat to the floor. Inhaling to come up, warrior one. Exhaling to shift your weight into your right foot, moving into warrior three. Lifting through the inner line of your left leg. Nice full stretch out through center. Good. Coming up with the torso, picking up your left foot behind you. This time we're going to reach back with both hands, seeing if we can loop the fingers around the top of the foot. Again, maybe a little bit of softness in the right knee, pushing that left foot up and back into your hands as you reach your heart forward. So maybe this is a bit more of a stretch around the shoulders. Lots of length still in the left thigh, the hip crease, the belly. Good, and then slowly releasing. Knees parallel, feet side by side, coming back to standing at the top of your mat. And then shifting your weight into your left foot. Actually bending your knees first. Reaching your arms up alongside your ears. And then shifting your weight into your left foot. We'll pick up the right leg. Cross the right ankle above the left knee. Start to sit the hips low. Hands to your heart. Keep sitting back through your hips, reaching forward through your chest. And then moving towards that twist, so now seeing if we can bring the right elbow towards the sole of the right foot. Again, you could park the elbow right into the foot. You could even reach your right arm down, your left arm up to spread the arms out wide. If that's not an option, then we're just going to be happy with where we are. Turning towards the right as best we're able and holding the balance as best we're able. That might be where your biggest challenge lies. Good. If you have your arms spread out wide, you can slowly fold your hands back towards your chest. And then we'll unwind, coming back to center, picking up that right leg, stepping back into warrior two, arms out, shoulder height, sitting the hips low. And inhaling here, reverse warrior, the left arm reaching back. Exhaling, left hand to the floor, or just left forearm to the thigh is also fine. Right arm alongside your right ear, breathing into the length of your right side body. Seeing if you can open up the spaces between your ribs. And look for lots of length in the belly here, so just making sure we're not curling into the shape. Maybe coming up higher with your torso is necessary in order to get that stretched out feeling in your torso. And then we'll exhale to bring the hands down to the floor, framing the left foot. And step back to plank, moving with your breath, your path to downward dog. And then picking up your left leg as you inhale. Exhale, knee into the chest, the shoulders come forward. Inhaling up and back. Exhaling the knee to the upper left arm, shoulders forward. Inhaling up and back. Exhaling, knee to the upper right arm, threading your left leg over to the right. And then starting to settle that left hip down, also dropping onto the inside of your right foot. So we land the legs kind of in an L shape. And then turning your heart back towards the front of your mat. You can start to walk the hands forward, maybe coming down onto your forearms. Again, you might even come all the way down onto your chest here. Seeing if you can continue to drag the heart forward. So you can kind of pull with your hands or your forearms against the floor towards you to really lengthen out the torso. Combing through your body with your breath. Notice again what you might do to continue to shape this pose or continue to explore and understand your body in this shape. Good. And then we'll slowly come back up onto the hands. And beginning to turn your right toes under as you pick up your hips. Pull that left knee back into the chest. Stepping your left foot forward, right foot flat to the floor. Inhaling up to warrior one. Exhaling, shifting your weight into your left foot, finding warrior three. Nice long stretch out here away from center. And then slowly coming up with the torso, right foot comes up behind you, seeing if you can loop onto that foot with both of your hands, and then pressing the right foot up and back into your hands as you stretch your heart forward, and then spacing your right thigh and the belly, and then also finding some space around the shoulders and the upper back as the foot pulls the shoulders back and the heart resists that tug. And then we'll exhale to slowly release. Again, setting the feet side by side. Standing up nice and tall, arms by your sides. Inhale to reach the arms up. Exhaling to fold forward, hands towards the floor. Inhaling halfway up. Exhaling to plant the hands, stepping or hopping back. Again, finding your own path to downward dog. One more time. Good. And then from here, we'll inhale to reach the right leg up and back. Exhale the knee towards the right wrist. We're coming now into the full pigeon shape. You can set the right shin bone down at an angle that works for you. You can bring your left knee down to the mat and slowly settle the hips as evenly as you're able. Sometimes it's helpful to prop up the right hip so that we're not dumping over to the right. So try and get the hips down at the same rate. They might not come all the way down, that's fine. And then from here, we'll walk the hands forward and settle into a reclining kind of shape or prone shape in this pigeon. So you can think of a resting, sleeping pigeon with all of its feathery softness. And for some of us, maybe that metaphor is easily reached, and for others, it's difficult in this space to find light, feathery quality of a bird. So if that's you, especially paying attention to what you can do with your breath, and again, how we can explore and discover via the breathing what the blocks might be in the mental space and the physical space that need to get gently, lovingly weeded out. Good, and then we'll slowly come back up onto the hands. And you see now if we can move into the backbend variation of this shape. So keeping your hips as low and as square as possible, we're just going to start to send the torso back so that we're trying to align the hips more underneath the torso. Again, drawing your belly away from your right thigh, using some of that deeper core strength to help you lift up through the ribs. You might feel even that you kind of draw the knees gently towards each other in order to activate the core strength, which gives us more height. And you might find that you need to just stay here, especially if your torso is quite far forward and you really have a lot of weight in your hands. You're just going to want to stay in this space and continue to breathe and explore. If you feel like you have more room to move and you're more upright in your torso, then we could start to pick up the left foot. And then we see if we can reach back with the left hand and draw that left foot in towards the left hip. So without turning too much, try and keep your hips square. I know there is this variation where we sometimes like hook the elbow around the foot. I don't necessarily recommend it. So it kind of looks pretty and maybe it feels nice, but it turns us quite a bit to the left. I would suggest more trying to stay forward and centered and see if you can just really draw that left heel in towards you to get the stretch across the front body, the left thigh, the left hip crease, the belly. Yeah. And if the foot comes in really close, then we can start to play a little bit with hooking the thumb towards the insides of the toes, and then maybe the left elbow swings up. If that comes naturally to you, you might explore it. If it seems like a very complicated thing, don't worry about it for now. And then eventually we'll let go of that foot and come back onto your hands, tucking your left toes under, pushing your hips up and back, stepping into downward dog, taking a moment here and seeing if we can find an easeful quality in the hips and the spine. And then moving on to the other side, we'll inhale the left leg up and back. Exhale the knee to the left wrist. Setting the shin bone down again, an angle that works for you, whatever that is. Left knee to the floor. You can start to sink your hips at an even rate down towards your mat. Supporting again as much as you need to, so you could prop up that left hip with a block or a
cushion or whatever you have available. And then from here, we'll slowly start to walk the hands forward and come into this softer, sleepier version of the pigeon. Maybe you're coming right down onto your forehead. And just paying attention to your breathing. Seeing what your breathing might help you to learn or understand or clear out. And then from here, we'll again slowly come up onto the hands and see if we can find that more upright shape, the knees gathering in together, the low belly lifting so that the ribs can come up tall. So there's not this like crunchy feeling in the low back. You really don't want to have the belly leaning forward and then just push the shoulders back. We should feel like we're really moving with the whole torso at kind of an even rate. And I'm sure it looks like my belly is really far forward. But that's just the extra stuff in the front. Good. And then from here, you can either just stay upright as you are. Again, if you have a lot of weight in your hands and you feel like you're pretty far forward in your lean, then just stay there and keep breathing there. If we're more centered over the hips, we could pick up the right foot. We could reach back with the right hand and see if we can draw that right foot in towards the right hip. And again, try and stay as square as you're able here. So we're really hugging the right hip forward, lifting the low belly away from the left thigh. And I'm just exploring whatever range of motion is available here. And if your shoulders are really mobile and that foot is in, like the foot has to be in super close for this to work, but if your foot is in really close, maybe you hook your thumb just to the inside of your toes, and you can see it better on the side. And then that right elbow can start to swing up. It's quite a requirement of shoulder flexibility. So if it doesn't work, don't worry about it. This is not really a level 1-2 pose with the elbow up. And then wherever you've ended up, we'll just slowly let that right foot settle back down if you had it lifted. Hands back to the floor, tucking the right toes under. And once more, just really carefully lifting yourself up into a downward dog shape. Maybe a little bit of bend in the knees, softening through the hips, and just see if we can find a level of comfort in the spine and the legs so that everything feels loose and even. Yeah. And then we'll exhale the knees down to the mat, crossing your ankles, and roll back over your feet, coming to seated. Yeah. And from here, we're just going to take the legs out straight in front of the body, sitting up nice and tall. So really finding a neutral space in the spine after that deeper back bend. Seeing if you can place your hands by your sides without pushing into the hands. So depending on the length of your arms, you might have some bend in your elbows or you might not. And I'm just trying to use more of like the core strength and the back muscles to get that nice tall spinal alignment. So you're really exactly over your hips, ribs lifting away from the hips. Everything in its sort of middle centered place. You might also look for some strength in the legs, get a little bit more length through the backs of the legs by engaging the fronts of your legs. Good, and then from here we'll inhale to reach the arms up. As you exhale, you can just slowly, gently fold over your legs here. And you might find that you want some bend in your knees. You might find that you want some space between your legs. And you're seeing if we can find a relatively soft forward fold. So maybe not your deepest forward fold ever, but just a nice little counterbalance to that back bend feeling, some roundness in your low back and your upper back. You might even let your head start to kind of dangle heavy so that the back of the neck can be soft. And then we'll inhale to come slowly back up and place the soles of the feet to the floor. And then slowly find your way down onto your back. So feet, again, resting to the mat. We'll reach the arms out
about shoulder height. Once more, coming into a twist, take the hips over to the right, let the knees settle to the left, and you can choose here if you want to, again, have more spinal twist, then you can really stack your knees, or you could even wrap your right thigh over your left, and just kind of hook the foot around the calf, whatever works for you. Hips turning away from the floor, upper back resting into the floor. Just a little bit of a gentle, loving hug around your center from this twisted shape. And then we'll inhale to come back to center. And exhale to take the hips over to the left, the knees down to the right. And again, just setting up in a way that makes sense for you. Knees stacked, knees staggered, or maybe left thigh crossing over the right, left foot hooking around the calf. Really slow, steady breath. And then we'll bring the knees back towards center. You can gather your knees into your chest, hands or your arms around your shins, rocking a little bit side to side here, so you can feel a kind of rounder shape in the back again, massaging quality back against the floor. Just a nice loosening up. And then releasing into Shavasana. So again, you can take your legs out straight, or you might choose to practice your Shavasana with bent knees. Seeing once more if you can explore your physical landscape. And let everything drop really heavily into the mat. Notice your breath. See if we can just let the breath be completely natural, so there's no effort or control in the breathing. And then noticing whatever busyness there is in your mind. And for a moment, we see if we can just sort of empty out the mind completely. Maybe we can imagine like wanting to start over with a piece of land. First, we just take out all of the plants. You dig everything up. You turn the soil. And let things rest as a blank slate for a moment. I'll just take another few quiet moments here. And then beginning again to cultivate a new garden, first by bringing the nourishment of your breath into your body, into your mental space. And then finding some small movements in your fingers and your toes. And just gently waking yourself back up. And inhale to reach your arms up alongside your ears. Take a good full stretch. And we'll exhale again to roll onto the right side. Making your way slowly up to seated. Just coming towards a comfortable seat, whatever that means for you. Sitting up nice and tall with your eyes closed. And take a few moments here to, again, just simply notice how you are, how you feel, maybe how you've changed or what you've learned. And maybe we see there are areas where we've cleared out the body or cleared something out of the mind. Maybe we also see there are areas where we've simply noticed and what's overgrown and weedy. Maybe we've noticed that it's always a work in progress. And that's good. That's what keeps it interesting. And we'll bring the hands together at the center of the chest and thank yourself for your practice today. Namaste.